Hello, my name is Julia Smith, and this is my issue speech for public speaking. Racism isn't born, folks, it's taught. I have a 2-year-old son, and do you know what he hates? Naps. End of list. This was a Twitter post by Dennis Leary that was posted in May of 2012. And if you stop to think about it, as kids, we really will play with just about whomever wants to play with us. We don't know any different. We do get a little bit older, and we start to notice differences such as gender, color of hair, and color of skin. But for most of us, these are not reasons to not get along. Unfortunately, there are those individuals that view differences as a reason to not get along. They learn this behavior from their parents, from television shows, from movies, and maybe even past history. And that's extremely unfortunate. Although there's never truly been a place for racism in society, today we live in an even more civilized society and more diverse society than ever before, and certainly there is no place for racism in America. Today we're going to take a brief look at a history of the civil rights movement. We'll talk about a few of the modern day issues, why it matters, and what we can do to help prevent racism. Point 1, a history of civil rights. Now, history is full of racial injustices, and we all know that Abraham Lincoln helped abolish slavery when he issued the Emancipation Proclamation back in the 1800s. And that was a start towards equality, but it fell short. From a long career in HR, I am pretty well versed on the civil rights movement, and suffice to say another turning point in history was in the 1950s with the Brown versus the Board of Education when the desegregation of schools began. Now, the civil rights movement did continue on into the 1960s, from which came the passing of the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And anyone in human resources can tell you that that was an attempt to make everyone equal, regardless of race or color, religion, sex, or national origin, in all matters concerning employment. Now, Adam Liptak from the New York Times writes that according to Justice Scalia of the U.S. Supreme Court, who just issued his view on a decision made in June of 2015, that Title VII forbids adverse employment decisions made with a forbidden motive. Whether that motive derives from actual knowledge, a well-founded suspicion, or merely a hunch, it does not matter. What this tells us is that the protections afforded to the American people under Title VII are still deeply ingrained in our culture and at the forefront of our legal system. Now, we also have affirmative action, and companies that meet that criteria set forth in the executive order are required to have a plan in place to identify and to attempt to correct any underutilization in the workforce. There are those people that feel that affirmative action is actually a form of reverse discrimination, and honestly, there is no perfect solution. But our government is on the right track because regardless of our individual beliefs, we are all a part of something that is bigger than our own families or our race. We all have something in common. We're all Americans. Point 2, a few modern day issues. Now, racial tensions have been on the rise in America, beginning with the murder of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman. And then there's that dreaded day about a year ago when an unarmed African American teen was fatally shot by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, even more recently, Harriet McLeod from Reuters reports that a white man, Dylan Roof, was arrested on suspicions that he killed 9 people at an African American church in South Carolina. Now, what's interesting is that in the Ferguson instance, people were rebelling prior to any verdict, whereas in South Carolina, there has been no looting, no throwing objects at police, just protesting and some disrespectful behavior in regards to the American flag. What this tells us is that across the United States, we have some areas that are more integrated than others. In those lesser integrated communities, when issues such as these arise, people immediately classify themselves into one category or another. And this ends out pitting the races against each other, and people begin to stereotype. It also takes one issue and turns it into something that's so much bigger and next to impossible to manage. And what that does is that takes all of the progress that we've made moving forward, and it puts us back and divides us again. Now, these are just a few of the recent issues that we've been facing in America lately, and these perpetrators are indeed hateful individuals. But sadly, a whole race is being blamed rather than the individual themselves. Point 3, why does this matter? Now, this matters to us on many different levels. Many of us are parents, or we will be parents in the future, and we want a better world for our children. We want a safe world, and we want a fair and just world. Additionally, we go to school, and people of all races need to be able to focus on the task at hand. Education is our opportunity to better ourselves. Now, fortunately, businesses have come to realize the benefits of a diverse workforce. And Michelle Cooper, a Forbes journalist, reports General Motors says that in order to succeed in this increasingly diverse environment, then Americans must select leaders who possess cross-cultural competence. That is the capacity to interact with and to understand the experiences and perspectives that are held by persons of different races, ethnicities, and cultural histories. But perhaps no reason is bigger than the fact that we as Americans face many challenges in this world. And if we allow this inner hatred to continue to divide us, we are going to become too weak to thwart off our common enemy. The members of our armed forces need to remain focused on the task at hand. Anything less can have devastating consequences. Point 4, steps to prevent racism. Now, Michelle Obama, the First Lady of the United States, delivered a speech in Topeka, Kansas in May of 2014. And according to World News, she admitted that many of the challenges that we face today in America cannot necessarily be found in our laws, that changes need to take place in our hearts and in our minds. She went on to suggest that we begin in our own homes, that we address those family members that tell off-color jokes, that we let them know that they're talking about our friends. Next, we need to hold the media accountable by demanding responsible journalism. The media has the ability to sway personal opinion. They do this by using buzzwords in their stories, and these buzzwords are facts of a story, but they are a very, very small part of a story, and they have the ability to mislead the American people. Now, Susana Gonzalez from Reuters reports last month that confidence in police is at a 22-year low. We do need to allow our law to handle the issues as they arise. We must recognize that justice takes time, and on occasion our system may fail us. But if we are to maintain a safe and orderly society, our legal system must be respected. And finally, when issues arise, we should be holding the individuals accountable for his or her actions, not an entire group or race. Now, in closing, we cannot erase the past, and we cannot and should not ignore current events. But we can learn from these issues, and we can modify our own behaviors moving forward. This is important to each and every one of us. The United States is already one of the most diverse countries in the world. And Neil Shaw from the Wall Street Journal reports multiracial Americans are growing at a rate that is 3 times as fast as the overall U.S. population. And so it would seem that we're going to be raising children in an even more diverse environment than ever before. So we need to help them to learn to live and work with people whose race, religion, or culture may be different than their own. The racial issue is not going to go away overnight, nor is it ever going to completely go away, because we cannot change the attitudes of others. But if we strive to modify our own behaviors and to raise more open-minded children, we will slowly begin to see a more united society, a safer society, a more fair and just society, and slowly but surely, this world will become a better place for future generations. Thank you.